Welcome to Raccoon Tale. I hope you enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. My fourth sister had been flaunting herself at the imperial banquet, like a peacock spreading its tail feathers, yet she still failed to catch the crown prince's eye. Instead, she was bestowed in marriage to the Zhenbei Marquis, Yuan Tang, a man whose infamous reputation echoed throughout the capital. She refused to marry him, so father ordered me to take her place. Yuan Tang actually agreed to the match. After all, every daughter of the Song family looked the same to him. He probably assumed my sister's temperament would be gentler and more refined than the rumors suggested. Little did he know that my hands were already stained with blood. I was the real notorious she-devil of the capital. The empress had hosted the banquet specifically to select a crown princess for the crown prince, inviting a great many noble daughters to attend. Everyone knew the position had already been reserved for the empress's own granddaughter, Wenwan, the legitimate daughter of the prime minister's residence. This event was merely a formality to observe proper etiquette. Yet my fourth sister, Songwan, refused to accept her fate. She performed the captivating luau dance that drew every eye in the hall. The crown prince could not stop glancing her way. The empress lavished her with praise and even removed the jade bracelet from her own wrist to reward her. Songwan was overjoyed, convinced she had won the empress's favor. She never expected that in the very next breath the empress would announce her betrothal to the Zhenbei Marquis, Yuan Tang. She cast pleading glances toward the crown prince several times, but he merely lowered his head and drank in silence, offering not a single word. By the time we returned to the residence, Songwan's eyes were swollen red from crying. When stepmother Madame Lu heard the news, she staggered back several steps, nearly fainting on the spot. Yuan Tang had no parents to serve above him and no children to raise below him. The Marquis of Zhenbei's mansion was powerful and illustrious, a truly excellent match by any standard. Yet Madame Lu's face was streaked with tears as she clung to father's sleeve. "Husband, you must think of something," she cried. Yuan Tang murdered his own father and slaughtered his mother. He is cruel and tyrannical. Both of his previous fiancées died suddenly. If not for his military achievements protecting His Majesty, he would have been executed long ago. No young lady in the capital dares to marry him. You cannot simply watch Wan walk to her death. Father broke into a cold sweat, clearly anxious. "I understand. Let me think of a solution," he said. Madame Lu then turned her accusation on me. "Little sister, your temperament is so naive. Why didn't you, as her elder sister, advise her more?" Songwan gnashed her teeth. "She's only hoping I'll die so no one will compete with her for father's affection anymore." I shrank back and answered weakly, "I have only just returned to the capital and rarely attend such events." My response was inadequate. "It is my fault. The empress has already decreed the marriage between the Zhenbei Marquis and a daughter of the Song family. The matter cannot be changed. Younger sister, just prepare peacefully for your wedding." Although the Zhenbei Marquis killed his father and stepmother and caused the deaths of his two previous fiancées, he has never actually brought harm to any wife of his own. Madame Lu's sharp eyes immediately caught the loophole in my words. Wait a moment. The empress bestowed the marriage upon a daughter of the Song family. She clutched father's sleeve tightly, her gaze bright with excitement. "Husband, Lan is also a daughter of the Song family. Let her marry him instead." Father roared. "You don't want your own daughter to suffer, so you would push Lan out instead. Besides, the Zhenbei Marquis is not someone who can be so easily deceived." Madame Lu and Songwan each grabbed one of father's arms, shaking and pleading desperately. Tears streamed down their faces like pure blossoms in the rain, making them look utterly pitiable. In the end, father's heart softened. He pulled me aside and whispered, "This is not something we can simply exchange at will. Yuan Tang will certainly refuse. Once he does, those two mother and daughter schemers will finally be silenced. Lan, you have always been understanding, just like your mother. Surely you can forgive father for temporarily agreeing to their request." Father had been married to my mother for only a year when his cousin, Madame Lu, came seeking shelter. My kind-hearted mother took her in. Then, right after I was born, Madame Lu became pregnant. Father pleaded bitterly, and mother, displaying the magnanimity of a proper wife, accepted Madame Lu into the household as a favored concubine. When I was 3 years old, mother became pregnant again. The tabby cat that Madame Lu had raised since girlhood frightened her so badly that the 6-month-old boy in mother's womb was lost. Father told mother to be more generous. Madame Lu had not done it on purpose, and she was already pregnant again. That old cat was ancient and frail. Even if they did not kill it, it would not live much longer. If they killed it now, they might disturb the fetus in Madame Lu's belly. As the proper wife, mother must show tolerance. Mother endured it in silence, growing more depressed by the day. Madame Lu gave birth to a boy. Mother's mind grew increasingly unstable. Father simply handed over all the household accounts and management to Madame Lu. My younger brother, Song Feng, suffered from a persistent cough that never healed. The great physician Madame Lu invited declared that mother and the child were inauspiciously clashing. Father therefore sent mother and me to live at the manor outside the city. Mother's illness went untreated and she died one winter night. She was buried hastily, and father never even came to see her one last time. A year later, he elevated Madame Lu to the position of legal wife. Song Wan and Song Feng became the legitimate son and daughter, while I was left to rot at the manor, treated like an unwanted concubine's daughter no one cared about. If a noble guest at the banquet had not mentioned that he once met me and inquired after my recent well-being, the Song family would never have remembered I existed. For the first 2 months after my return, Madame Lu and Song Wan kept a tight watch on me. But once they saw that I neither studied nor practiced the 4 arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and that my personality was timid and unlikable, they finally relaxed. Back in my room, I stood before the mirror and removed my jewelry. Sang Ye fumed. How can the master favor Songwan so blindly? Doesn't he realize what will happen if our young miss marries the Junbei Marquis? They are both his daughters. Why does he show no mercy at all? I smiled. If I had to rely on his mercy to survive, I would have died countless times already. Things are going far better than I expected. It was worth the effort of deliberately provoking Songwan today. I've been pretending for half a year. I couldn't wait any longer. Yuan Tan was cold and aloof by nature. For years he had guarded the border and rarely interacted with court officials. 12 years ago, when he killed his father and massacred his mother, father had been working at the Court of Judicial Review and had participated in the manhunt. They shared a grudge from that old case. For the sake of his precious daughter, father had boldly sent a visiting card. To everyone's surprise, the very next afternoon Yuan Tan arrived in person. Father received him in the front hall. Madame Lu brought 4 older maids to dress me. She instructed them to make me look dazzling and alluring, then piled every single expensive hairpin and bracelet she owned onto my head. Songwan stood to the side, viciously snapping the branches of the plum tree I had planted, and sneered. Why waste all this effort? Can a wild chicken really turn into a phoenix? I finished my makeup, smiled faintly, and called to her, younger sister. Songwan turned to look at me. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, bathing my figure in a golden glow. I reached up and removed the jade hairpin from my hair. Younger sister is right, I said softly. I'd better not go meet the Junbei Marquis after all. I wouldn't want to make a fool of myself in front of him. Shock and amazement flashed across Songwan's eyes, followed by unconcealed jealousy. Madame Lu shot her a fierce glare and gripped my arm tightly. Lan has always been straightforward. Don't hold it against her. The Junbei Marquis has been waiting quite a while. I'll take you to him now. Songwan was unwilling to let it go. I heard the Junbei Marquis is already 28, an old man. He has the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear, a ferocious face, and a mouth full of fangs. On the frontier he gouges out the eyes of slain enemies and swallows them alive. Elder sister is so timid. When you meet him later, try not to faint from terror. I trembled visibly, pretending to shrink back. I'd better not go after all. Madame Lu's expression darkened. Shut your mouth. Stop spouting nonsense and scaring her. Those are just baseless rumors, don't believe them. Songwan insisted on coming along to watch the show. If elder sister mishandles the situation later, I can remind her. Unable to refuse her daughter, Madame Lu let Songwan change into Sangye's clothes and warned her to only observe, not interfere. Stepping over the high threshold, I finally met the infamous Junbei Marquis. Yuan Tan sat upright in the seat of honor wearing a dark, red official robe embroidered with a culin. Father fawned beside him with an ingratiating smile. Marquis, this is my eldest daughter, Song Lan. Her temperament is gentle and serene, modest and courteous. Her mother came from the prestigious Zhao scholarly family of Jiangnan. Her appearance far surpasses that of her younger sister. I lifted my eyes for a brief glance at Yuan Tan before quickly lowering them again. Beside me, Song Wan was also staring at the man. She froze. Yuan Tan's skin was a warm honeytone, his figure tall and straight. Even beneath the heavy red robe one could sense the powerful, solid lines of his body. If the crown prince was a noble, elegant Persian cat, then Yuan Tan was a wild hunting leopard, brimming with raw tension. 28 years was no flaw. Instead, it gave him the calm authority of a man who had weathered countless storms. Yuan Tan rose and walked toward us. Song Wan unconsciously took a step forward. In the past, whenever I stood beside her, I had always been a mere shadow, a foil that made her shine brighter. To men, she was the lively, lovable one. They never noticed my timid withdrawal. But now Yuan Tan paid her no attention at all. His deep brown eyes slowly traveled over me from head to toe. "Raise your head," he commanded. He was a full head taller than me. I lifted my face and met his gaze, taking in his sharp brows, high straight nose, and defined jaw. My lashes trembled uncontrollably. He asked, "Are you willing to marry me?" Madame Lu pinched the flesh at the back of my waist hard. I am willing." Yuan Tan drew an emerald bracelet from his chest and slipped it onto my wrist. "This was my mother's keepsake. Consider it a token of betrothal." He removed the old scented sachet from my waist. "This will serve as the exchange." Did he recognize this sachet? Song Wan stared fixedly at the jade bracelet, teeth clenched, clearly about to speak, but Madame Lu yanked her back forcefully. Father's face lit up with delight. "Excellent, excellent. From now on, we are one family." Yuan Tan showed no courtesy whatsoever. "Lord Song, I agreed to your proposal not because I am easily deceived, but because I wanted to find someone who truly wishes to marry me. I will handle the Empress's side myself." He gripped my scented sachet, the corner of his mouth curving into a cold smile. "But remember this, Lord Song, Yuan Tan is not someone your family can toy with at will. I will soon come to welcome your eldest daughter in marriage. If anything goes wrong by then." He leaned closer to father, his smile sending a chill down the spine. "I will settle both new and old debts with you." Cold sweat beaded on father's forehead. "Marquis, rest assured, nothing of the sort will happen." After seeing Yuan Tan off, Song Wan's expression was thunderous. She spoke with biting sarcasm. "Who would have thought that man from the Yuan family isn't all that ugly after all? Looks like elder sister has gained quite the bargain." I replied, voice trembling. "He's so tall and strong. One slap from him could probably kill me. If younger sister likes him, why don't you marry him instead?" Song Wan sneered at me. "Look at how timid you are. How will you ever bear the title of Madame Junbei in the future? Still, a man who's only handsome on the outside is useless. That cold face of his shows he isn't the type to show tenderness. The crown prince is far superior." Yuan Tan personally petitioned His Majesty, and the matter of swapping brides proceeded without a hitch. The emperor issued an edict bestowing Song Lan, eldest daughter of the Song family, upon the Junbei Marquis Yuan Tan, along with a generous array of rewards. The very day the imperial decree arrived, Yuan Tan sent the betrothal gifts: huge eastern pearls the size of pigeon eggs, an entire set of emerald jewelry carved from top-grade mutton, fat white jade. Any single piece was a family heirloom that ordinary households could only dream of. The servants of the residence swarmed over to gawk at the spectacle, chattering nonstop. "The Junbei Marquis is truly generous. Once our eldest young miss marries him, she'll have no parents-in-law to serve and no children to raise. She'll be lying on a mountain of gold and silver every day. Isn't this exactly the fate the Empress herself chose for her?" Song Wan and Song Feng were carefully picking through the treasures, handing the choicest pieces to their personal maids. In the past they had done the same with my belongings. Whatever they fancied, they simply took, never bothering to ask my opinion. Hearing the servants' envious chatter, Song Wan's face darkened instantly. "What are you all standing around for? Don't you have work to do?" The maids scattered in fear. I spoke up weakly. "Younger brother and sister may take whatever you like, of course. But these items were all recorded in the inventory when they arrived. If I give them away and the Marquis later investigates, it could cause trouble. It's a pity I must keep these fine things to myself and cannot share them with you." Song Wan's expression turned stormy. She slammed the object in her hand down heavily and sneered, "These are only mediocre at best. Once I enter the Eastern Palace I'll have as many treasures as I want." Song Feng, however, lingered reluctantly. "The Junbei Marquis's mansion is powerful and illustrious. Taking a few pieces won't make him fuss, right? Father glared at him fiercely. A grown man should not spend his days obsessing over gold and silver. He turned to me. I am a fourth-rank official of the court. If word spreads that I allowed my family to embezzle betrothal gifts, how could I continue my career in the bureaucracy? Once Song Feng left, he stood by the window for a long time, staring longingly at the room full of treasures. Father hurried him away, leaving only the two of us. I always knew the Jumbe Marquis's fearsome reputation was only on the surface. He is not a bad man. You can tell from how he treated you today. For the sake of this marriage, Father has truly exhausted every ounce of effort. I have remained at the fourth rank for 9 long years. He patted my shoulder, eyes full of expectation. Yuan Tan is highly valued by His Majesty. Once you marry him, you must obey his every wish, please him in all things, and never defy him. Persuade him to speak well of Father before the Emperor as often as possible. If I can be promoted, your life in the Marquis's mansion will naturally become more comfortable. I understand, Father. Good. Though we father and daughter see little of each other, you are the child I value most. After another round of sweet words, he finally left. Sang Ye watched his retreating figure and spat on the ground. The child he values most. And yet he could leave her at the manor for over 10 years without a single visit. He really has the thickest face and no shame. I paid it no mind. I had known exactly what kind of man he was for a long time. As dusk fell, I removed my hairpins and asked Sangye, "Is everything in place for the main matter?" "All according to plan." She put away her anger, eyes rimmed red. "Elder sister has been gone for 4 years. Allowing him to live these extra years has been this servant's greatest failure. This servant has waited for today." Incense burned in the room. When the night watch drum sounded the hour of the rat, the entire residence had fallen into deep sleep and silence blanketed every corner. The window of my bedchamber creaked open. A dark shadow slipped inside. The intruder strained to pick the lock on the cabinet, sweat soon beading on his forehead. He yanked at his collar and turned, only to see me lying on the bed in nothing but a thin inner robe, as if possessed by ghosts and demons. He strode over and threw himself onto me. In the darkness, the corner of my mouth curved upward. I screamed and fumbled for the dagger hidden beneath my pillow. Lecker, I'll kill you." I stabbed straight toward his chest. He panicked and lurched back. I could not stop my momentum in time and tumbled off the bed, pinning him to the floor. The blade sank unerringly into his groin. The shadow let out a blood-curdling shriek and rolled across the ground clutching himself. My hands were covered in warm, sticky blood. Sang Yi, startled awake, rushed in with the others. My clothes were disheveled, sleeves torn, body trembling, face streaked with tears. "Rapist, there's a rapist." The shadow was quickly pinned down. Sang Yi gathered her courage, lifted the oil lamp, and shone it on his face. She gasped in shock. "Young Master Feng, how could it be you?" Father and Madame Lu hurried over. "Madame Lu's clothes still ask you." I huddled in the corner of the bed, wrapped in a quilt, shaking. Song Feng writhed in agony across the floor, leaving long trails of blood. The scene was horrifying. My wild stab in the dark had struck his most vital part perfectly. They said the pain of a man's root, being severed, was no different from a woman giving birth. It seemed the rumor was true. The physician from Huchun Hall was summoned at once and immediately treated the wound. The experienced doctor sighed heavily. "His life can be saved, but I fear he will never be able to perform his marital duties again." Song Feng's face turned deathly pale. He was only 17. If he could no longer function as a man, what kind of man would he be? He would be no different from the eunuchs in the palace. He clutched Madame Lu's hand and begged, Mother, you must find a way." Tears streamed down Madame Lu's face. "My good son, Mother will find the finest physicians. We will cure you. We will definitely cure you." The excruciating pain seemed to restore some of Song Feng's lost senses. He glared at me with hatred. "It was you. You did it on purpose. I was only passing by your room and saw the window was not properly closed, so I kindly closed it for you. You drugged me. That's why I lost my mind. That's right, you tampered with the incense. Father, Mother, Song Lan deliberately seduced and framed me. You must kill this vile woman and deliver justice for me." Having forced out those words, Song Feng's eyes rolled back and he fainted. Madame Lu cradled him, sobbing uncontrollably. In the chaos, the incense burner had been knocked over and not yet cleaned up. The physician from Huchun Hall was called back to examine the remaining ashes. Madame Lu gnashed her teeth. "My son has always kept himself pure. It must have been you who tampered with something. You never burn incense normally, yet tonight the scent was unusually strong. There is definitely something wrong. The doctor carefully inspected the unburned portion of the incense. A triumphant look flashed across Madame Lu's face, as if she had guessed correctly. After another moment of examination, the doctor said in astonishment, "This incense is only for repelling mosquitoes and relieving summer heat. There is no aphrodisiac in it whatsoever." Of course there wasn't. The aphrodisiac had been smeared on those so-called precious treasures. The heavy fragrance was merely a distraction to draw attention. Impossible. Madame Lu ground her teeth. If it wasn't her doing, why would Feng appear in her room in the middle of the night? She set Song Feng down, her face cold as she strode toward me. When she reached me, she suddenly snatched the blood-stained dagger from the tea table and stabbed viciously at my chest. "Whether you did it on purpose or not, you have ruined my son. You must die." Everything happened in a flash. No one expected her to strike so suddenly, and no one could react in time. In Madame Lu's eyes the blade was about to pierce my heart. Her fury and hatred nearly burned me alive. In that split second I raised my arm to block. The blade sliced across my wrist, blood gushing forth. Sang Ye lunged forward to shield me, but Madame Lu was determined to take my life. The dagger swung again, this time aimed straight at my throat. In panic I grabbed her wrist to fend it off. I pushed the blade away from myself, but she pressed forward with all her strength. In the violent struggle the curved tip of the dagger suddenly changed direction and slashed deeply across Madame Lu's face. She screamed in agony. I was terrified and released my grip at once. Sangye stepped in to protect me while the older maids and servants caught the staggering Madame Lu. The physician from Huchun Hall, who had only just lain down, was dragged up again to treat Madame Lu's wound. He said the cut was too deep, and since the madam was nearly 40, her healing ability could not compare to that of the young. A scar was almost inevitable. Madame Lu clutched her face, fingers tightening with hatred and rage. She shouted at father, "Husband, what are you waiting for? Kill this vile woman and avenge me." And Feng Songwan, awakened from sleep, rushed over and took in the scene. Her perfectly fine younger brother had been crippled. Her beautiful mother's face was ruined, half covered in blood. She rushed to support Madame Lu and pointed straight at my nose, shrieking, "Songlan, you poisonous snake of a woman! You castrated my brother and destroyed my mother's appearance." She screamed at father. "Father, what are you waiting for? Kill her! Kill her!" I collapsed onto a chair in terror, murmuring, "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. Mother wanted to kill me." Songwan was beside herself with fury. "You crippled my brother and severely injured my mother. You deserve to die." My eyes reddened, brimming with tears. "Younger sister is right. It is all my fault. I brought this disaster upon myself." Father had never felt much familial affection for me. Now that his son was ruined and his beloved wife disfigured, even though the physician had proven there was no aphrodisiac in the incense, the look in his eyes toward me was filled with disgust and hatred. "Someone, bring a bowl of medicine for the eldest young miss." In the inner residence, poisoning a woman was the simplest thing in the world. To the outside world they could simply claim I had contracted an incurable illness and died. At this moment I was certain he wanted me dead. The bowl of medicine was brought quickly. Madame Lu ordered the older maids to hold me down while she poured it straight into my mouth. At that exact instant the steward rushed in, panting. "The Junbei Marquis is outside the residence requesting to see the eldest young miss. He wishes to invite her to watch the sunrise together." Madame Lu's bowl of medicine was already at my lips when father suddenly came to his senses. He slapped the bowl from her hand, sending it crashing to the floor. Songwan's mind spun rapidly. "Are you stupid? Just say she is ill and cannot receive guests." The steward replied awkwardly. "The Junbei Marquis said that if the eldest young miss will not come, she must personally come out and refuse him." Father did not dare stop me. He told Sangye to hurry and help me change into clean clothes. He took my hand, his voice thick with emotion. "Just now father was too angry and lost his reason. I only wanted to vent a little anger for your mother and brother. How could I truly kill you? Family scandals should not be aired in public. Last night your brother mistakenly entered your room. That incident already damages your reputation. You absolutely must not speak nonsense in front of the Junbei Marquis." "I know, father." Today Yuan Tan wore a set of dark, somber casual robes. Far on the horizon, the first faint glow of dawn had already appeared. He stood facing the light, the soft sunrise smoothing the sharp edges of his features. "Why have you come?" I asked. He looked me up and down. "I thought you might need me." I truly did have a backup plan that could protect my life without any danger, but since he had shown such kindness, I naturally accepted his favor. I took a few steps closer. Beneath the ever-brightening dawn, I lifted my head and smiled at him. "You arrived at exactly the right moment. How about a kiss?" The general who had once swept across battlefields with thousands of troops suddenly froze, the tips of his ears turning bright red. "With the entire Song family watching us," I said, "aren't you supposed to be helping me? Only this will prove how much you truly value me." He understood in an instant. His large hand rested casually on the small of my back. His face flushed as he lowered his head, searching for my lips. I raised a single finger and pressed it against his cool mouth, letting out a soft, teasing laugh. "That's enough. I've been awake all night and haven't washed my face or rinsed my mouth yet." Yuan Tan realized he was being toyed with. His face reddened further, and his grip tightened unconsciously. He leaned in and planted a fierce kiss on my forehead. "Thank you, Brother Yuan," I said, stepping back 2 paces and waving at him. "I have to go back now. My own battle isn't over yet." "Really don't need my help. You've already helped enough." I narrowed my eyes and glanced down the long street. A dense crowd of people was surging toward us. "Look, my backup has arrived." The moment I stepped into the rear courtyard, the steward came running, drenched in sweat. "Master, Madam, it's terrible." A large group of men had gathered outside the gates, claiming the young master owed them money and refused to pay. Yesterday had been the final deadline. Since he still hadn't settled the debt, they had come to collect today. If he didn't pay now, they would report the matter straight to the capital magistrate. Only then did father finally learn the truth. It turned out Song Feng had long ago fallen into the vice of gambling. Not only had he lost every shop registered under his name that Madame Lu had given him, but he also owed 8,000 taels of silver to outside creditors. On top of that, every time he went gambling he would bring along all kinds of courtesans. In other words, he was a regular patron of the Crimson Silk Pavilion. Father's hair practically stood on end with rage as he confronted Madame Lu. "What exactly is going on? How have you been raising our son?" Madame Lu was both anxious and guilty. "I thought he was only playing small stakes for fun. I never imagined the debt would grow so large. Husband, we should pay them quickly. If they take this to the capital magistrate and the constables really come to arrest him, not only will Feng's body be unable to endure the torture in his current condition, but the Song family's reputation will be completely ruined." I spoke softly. "Last night at midnight, when Feng broke into my room, he was probably trying to steal something valuable to pawn and settle his debts. It's also my fault for wearing such thin nightclothes and tempting him into wicked thoughts." Madame Lu hurriedly protested. "You're talking nonsense. My son is not that kind of person." Before she could finish, father swung his hand and delivered a vicious slap across her face. "Shut your mouth. You raised a son like this and you still have the face to defend him. If he had no ill intentions, why was he wearing dark nightclothes?" "Oh. Your eyes were blind just a moment ago, but they've recovered so quickly." Father was furious beyond measure. Ignoring Madame Lu's attempts to stop him, he shook Song Feng awake. "You unfilial wretch, tell me the truth. When you said you were going out to study every day, were you actually going to the gambling dens? You've piled up such an enormous debt. Do you intend to drag the entire Song family down with you?" The moment Song Feng heard that the creditors had arrived at the door, his face changed drastically. Tears and snot streamed down his cheeks. Father, save me. I know I was wrong. I didn't want to cause trouble for you, so last night I thought of borrowing some valuables from eldest sister to plug this hole. From now on I swear I will never gamble again. Please, father, save me this once." Father raised his hand and slapped Song Feng hard across the face. "You wretched spawn. How could I have given birth to a monster like you?" Madame Lu pleaded desperately for father to settle the debt and even offered a suggestion. "The Junbei Marquis sent so many treasures. We can just take a few of them to pay off the creditors." Father's eyes bulged. He slapped her again. "The betrothal gifts from the Junbei Marquis's mansion, ending up in the hands of a gambling den boss. If word gets out, how can I hold my head high in the official circles? Mother and son, are you trying to push me into an early grave?" I offered gently. "Why don't we first take out part of my dowry and younger sisters? After all, We shouldn't let the matter blow up. Noble families start preparing their daughters' dowries from the day they are born. By the age of 16, they usually have a complete set. No one normally touches those items. I knew perfectly well that Madame Lu would not have prepared much of a dowry for me, but she had certainly amassed a generous one for Songwan. Songwan froze. He's out there living it up, racking up huge debts, and you want to use my dowry to fill the hole. If I have no dowry left, how will the crown prince ever look at me in the future? In her panic, Madame Lu blurted out the truth. Wake up already. With your family background and talents, you could never enter the Eastern Palace anyway. Feng is your blood brother. How can you watch him die without lifting a finger? Song Wan stared at her mother with wide. Song Feng kept begging. Elder sister, good elder sister, please save me just this once. Do you really want to see me thrown into prison? Madame Lu hurriedly added, I prepared that entire dowry myself. It's not up to her whether she agrees or not. Right now your brother's situation is the most important. Don't be selfish. Song Wan remained silent for a long time. In that moment I knew she had finally understood one thing. In Madame Lu's heart, a daughter like her was nowhere near as important as a son. She laughed coldly, looking at Song Feng who was still howling and crying. I'll help you this once. After she spoke, she turned and left. Even that was not enough. Father had to find every possible way to plug the hole. If the scandal erupted, he would become the laughingstock of the entire capital bureaucracy. The triennial evaluation was at the end of the year. At that point, forget about promotion. He might not even keep his current position. 20 years of hard work, and the family fortune he had built up turned to flowing water in a single night. The son he had placed all his hopes on was not only a wastrel but had now lost his ability to produce heirs, cutting off the family line forever. The daughter he had spoiled beyond measure showed no understanding of his difficulties. Instead she resented him for touching her dowry, and blamed him for serving as an official all these years without securing any real benefits. In the span of half a day, father seemed to have aged 10 years. Madame Lu herself was injured and had to care for her son. Songwan was in shock and refused to leave her courtyard. Father drank alone to drown his sorrows. Only I, the ever-obedient daughter, stayed by his side to keep him company. He had drunk quite a bit. Feng can no longer have children. Who will I entrust the Song family to in the future? What meaning has my entire life of struggle had? I comforted him gently. Father, you must take care of your health and not grieve too deeply. His Majesty is nearly 50, yet he only welcomed his 12th prince last year. You are just over 40, still in the prime of life. You can easily father several more younger brothers for us. These past years Madame Lu has managed the household very strictly. Although you have concubines, none of them are outstanding in appearance or talent. Occasionally one would become pregnant, but the child never survived. Among the official families in the capital, our household could be considered to have few children. For the long-term future of the Song family, as the eldest daughter I should at least help share some of your worries. I will find you a few fresh, young, understanding, and lovable flowers to keep you company. Song Feng was still young and refused to accept that he truly could no longer function as a man. The moment his body felt slightly better, he impatiently dragged over a serving maid to test himself. The wound that had only just closed tore open again. This repeated over and over. The weather grew hotter by the day. The wound became infected with pus, and even the physician from Huchun Hall could only shake his head after examining it. His temperament had never been good to begin with. After such a major catastrophe, it grew even more erratic. That day, I kindly went to visit him, and he opened his mouth and cursed me as a vicious whore, called me a poisonous woman with a heart of stone, said I had plotted to harm him. I was truly puzzled. I have no deep grudge against you. Why would I scheme to hurt you? I stared at him without blinking. What reason? Sang Ye and I both wore expressions full of anticipation, hoping he might remember something, but his mind was completely blank. After thinking back and forth, he finally snarled viciously, "A poisonous bitch like you doesn't need a reason." He had forgotten. Forgotten everything, without a trace. 4 years ago, when he was only 13, Father and Madame Lu had taken the siblings to inspect the countryside estate. He had caught sight of Can Si, Sang Yi's elder sister, joyfully trying on her wedding clothes. The brilliant red bridal gown and the shy anticipation of a girl about to marry had made Can Si especially beautiful that day. Song Feng forced himself on her. When father found out, he merely gave the boy a single slap. Madame Lu blamed Kansai for being a cheap, lascivious slut who had seduced her half-grown son and dreamed of leaping through the dragon gate like a carp. They compensated Kansai with a single tael of silver. A girl who had lost her chastity in the countryside. How could she go on living? Half a month later, unable to endure the gossip, Kansai hanged herself. That day had been her wedding day. All because of Songfeng's momentary bestial lust. He had destroyed an innocent girl's entire happy future, and then he had forgotten the entire matter. A person like him, dying would have been too kind. I curled my lips into a faint, cold smile and spoke to him word by word. Feng, do you find it boring staying cooped up in your room every day? Would you like me to go to the Crimson Silk Pavilion and bring back a few girls to keep you company and relieve your boredom? Oh, I forgot. I deliberately raised my voice. Even if I call the girls, you wouldn't be able to use them. You're no longer a man. Why don't you enter the palace and find yourself a godfather? Who knows, you might rise like a kite in the wind and hold an even higher official rank than father. Songlan, I'll kill you. I'll kill you, you vile whore. Even as I left his courtyard, he was still screaming madly. With such agitation, the wound would probably break open again. That body of his must be rotting away by now. Songfeng suffered torment day after day, but Madame Lu's life was no better. Her son's root was damaged beyond repair, and her daughter had grown distant. For her, the wound on her face healed with excruciating slowness. She no longer had the heart to manage the household affairs. Once she nearly sent the condolence money meant for a subordinate's funeral to the 80th birthday celebration of the Duke's old madam. If it had actually been delivered and the Duke's mansion opened the white envelope, the mere thought of that scene was enough to send a chill down the spine. Father stripped her of the household accounts and gave her a fierce scolding. She cried until her face was a mess of tears and snot. Husband, back then I had neither name nor status. I risked the scorn of the world and gave you my whole heart and my pure body. All these years I have borne children and raised them for you, weathering the storms of officialdom together with you. Cousin, have you forgotten? You once promised to treat me well for the rest of your life and protect me forever. Remember that year, when you went to provide disaster relief, and were trapped in a heavy snowstorm. I was so worried about you that I searched day and night for 3 full days and nights, until I finally found you. No Feng is injured and I have had my face ruined by that vile woman. If you truly feel any pity for us mother and son, you should kill that whore and vent our anger. Why do you still let her live comfortably, coming every day to watch me make a fool of myself? I stood outside the door and listened to her inside raising a storm over old memories. Father's heart wavered slightly. Lionner, get up first. The ground is cold. Sangye frowned tightly. It's been like this every few days. The master won't really be moved by her again, will he? Back then, for her sake, the master showed no mercy at all to the legal wife. No, she's old now, and ugly too. Song Wei has never been a soft-hearted man. I took a few steps forward and entered the room. Mother, Lan has come to pay her respects. I found some excellent scar removal medicine for you. How is your face doing? While speaking, I took advantage of Madame Lu's distraction and yanked away the thick veil covering her face. The brilliant afternoon sunlight fell across the right side of her injured face. The wound was growing fresh pink flesh that looked like a fat, wriggling earthworm crawling across her skin. Father's hand supporting her loosened slightly, and he quietly took 2 steps back. Be sure to apply the medicine carefully to the wound on your face. I still have official duties to attend to. I'll visit you again tomorrow. Madame Lu tried to keep father there, but he fled faster than a rabbit. She was furious and lunged forward to slap me. You vile whore. Before her hand could even touch the hem of my robe, I turned and slapped her hard across the face. Slap. The sound echoed through the entire room. The force was so great that she lost her balance and collapsed heavily to the floor. I looked down at her from above, gripping her chin with a gentle smile. I'm sorry. I couldn't control my strength just now. It looks like the wound on your face has split open again. Clearly I had been so gentle and delicate, yet Madame Lu suddenly trembled from head to toe, her voice shaking. Why, you know martial arts? That's right. I smiled until my eyes curved into crescents. I lived in the countryside for so many years. If I wasn't studying the 4 arts, I had to learn something else. For example, boxing and kicking, so I could slap an enemy right in the face just like this, and a bit of medicine. so I could feed an enemy some aphrodisiac mixed with a little poison. Madame Lu struggled desperately, but she had no strength at all. The harder she fought, the more the wound on her face flushed red and oozed, looking even more hideous. I dragged her in front of the bronze mirror, ripped away the cloth covering it, and pressed her head right up against the glass. "Oh no, your face seems to be completely ruined. It can never return to its former appearance. Back then when my mother fell ill, you poisoned her food so her face turned sallow as wax, her body wasted away, and her hair fell out in clumps, making father despise her." I leaned close to her ear and whispered like a demon. "Look at yourself now. You're even uglier than my mother was back then. Tell me, after father saw your appearance just now, do you think he'll have nightmares tonight?" Madame Lu's eyes bulged, bloodshot veins filling them. "You deliberately hid the fact that you know martial arts. You've been plotting revenge for your mother all along. Everything was arranged by you. I'm going to tell my husband. I'll make him marry you off to a cart driver." Madame Lu's expression turned crazed. "No, I'll sell you into a brothel and let thousands of men ride you and 10,000 trample you." She threw herself at me, scratching and clawing. I didn't dodge. I let her nails rake across my face, neck and arms, leaving long bloody streaks. With my injured face, I smiled with utter delight. "I'm afraid father won't have time to see you anymore. Let me tell you something. I've already found him 2 young, beautiful, poetry-loving concubines. Right now father is drowning in tender affection and has forgotten the way home." Shen Meluan and Lu Qingai were the 2 concubines I had chosen for father. They had originally been daughters of official families who fell into the brothels after their fathers committed crimes. They had only just reached the age to receive guests. I had taken them to see father from afar once. "Would you rather stay in the pavilion entertaining all kinds of patrons, or come to the Song family and serve only my father?" Shen Meluan had a straightforward personality. "I choose your father. He doesn't look like an old man and won't make me nauseous." Lu Qingai was much steadier. "His honor is a 4th-rank official after all. With our backgrounds, would he even allow us through the door?" "I will arrange a suitable identity for you both," I replied. Lu Qingai's beautiful eyes stared straight at me. "This is the first time I've ever seen a daughter finding concubines for her own father. What exactly do you need us to do?" I smiled and answered frankly, "Just entangle my father so tightly that my stepmother can no longer bewitch him." My mother was the legitimate wife. I roughly told them the story from years ago. Before finding the 2 of them, I had already investigated. Both had been legitimate daughters in their original families, so I believed they could sympathize with my situation. Sure enough, Shen Meluan was furious beyond words. "Miss Song, rest assured, we will use every skill we possess to make sure your father never thinks of that black-hearted stepmother again." Lu Qingai looked at me deeply and asked softly, "In that case, we won't be staying in the Song family for long, will we?" She was truly clever. She had even guessed my ultimate intention. I nodded. "Correct. Once everything settles down, if you wish to remain in the Song family, I won't make things difficult. If you wish to leave, I will grant you your freedom." Lu Qingai smiled faintly. "Very well, Meluan and I will not fail Miss Song's trust." The concubines Madame Lu had found for father over the years had all been as dull as dead wood, utterly boring. But Shen Meluan and Lu Qingai, one lively and charming, the other cool and elegant, had been raised in scholarly families since childhood. After falling into the brothels they had learned every art of pleasing a man. Their destructive power was immense. Father bloomed like a withered tree meeting spring, reborn once more. The fresh stimulation brought by these young beauties quickly pulled him out of the shock of his son becoming useless. As for his idealized first love whose face had been destroyed, Shen Meluan cooed sweetly beside his pillow. "Master, don't worry about the family's financial shortfall. Eldest young miss will soon marry into the Marquis's mansion. Once that happens, you will be the Marquis's father-in-law. With that status, how could good days not come?" Madame Lu had tried several times to see father. Each time she would cry pitifully and beg him to kill me. Father grew annoyed and, after seeing her disfigured face the last time, was now completely bewitched by the 2 new concubines. He wanted to see her even less. Madame Lu had learned her lesson. She sewed a new set of clothes, covered her face with a white gauze veil that revealed only her pitiful eyes, and stood blocking the bamboo grove outside father's study. She had grown much thinner. The evening breeze tugged at the hem of her skirt, making her look even more fragile and delicate. She called softly, "Cousin." Father's mind drifted for a brief moment. At that exact instant, Lu Qing'ai stepped out from deep within the bamboo grove. She wore a long dress of verdant green and carried a bundle of freshly cut bamboo branches. Her figure was tall and slender, her steps light. A faint fragrance of bamboo leaves followed her as she walked. She smiled gently, and it seemed every leaf in the grove relaxed and stretched toward her. "Master, I have good news to tell you." Father's attention was instantly drawn away. Years ago, when my mother lay critically ill at the estate, Madame Lu had gone in father's place to visit. She had worn her most fashionable outfit and stood before my mother's bed, showing off arrogantly. "Cousin really likes me in this outfit. The madam is old now. Cousin still prefers me, young and beautiful." I leaned close to Madame Lu's ear and whispered, "You're old now. Father still prefers young, beautiful concubines. What's more terrifying is that you will only grow older with each passing day, while young, beautiful girls sprout up like spring bamboo after the rain, layer after layer, never in short supply." Madame Lu completely collapsed. She rushed forward, shoving Lu Qing'ai aside and throwing herself into father's arms. "Cousin, don't let these vixens seduce you. You once promised to love me for the rest of your life." Lu Qing'ai was pushed to the ground. She clutched her belly, her face twisted in pain. "It hurts, my stomach hurts so much." The green dress slowly stained with a dark red patch. The physician arrived very quickly. He had only just left not long ago. The moment he saw Lu Qing'ai, he cried out in alarm. "I just told you to rest carefully and avoid any impact at all costs." A basin of bright red blood was carried out. The physician's expression was grave. "The child could not be saved. The first 3 months are the most dangerous. How could you be so careless and fall?" Lu Qing'ai turned her face away, letting a long trail of tears slide down. Shen Meluan wept as she comforted her. "Sister Qing'ai, does it hurt terribly? Don't be sad. There will definitely be more children in the future." Father's face turned deathly pale. That pregnancy must have been the good news Lu Qing'ai had wanted to tell him. Unfortunately, before she could speak, the child was already gone. Madame Lu's face flushed and paled and flushed again. Yet she felt no guilt at all. Instead she turned on father. "Song Wei, Feng's wound hasn't even healed yet, and you haven't shown him any concern. Yet you've already gotten another woman pregnant so quickly. Do you still have us mother and son in your heart at all? Do you even have a conscience?" A person who had been spoiled for too long eventually lost all sense of proportion. She charged forward and confronted father. A middle-aged wife, her face ruined, had gone mad. A young, beautiful concubine tried her best to remain strong, eyes red but magnanimous enough not to pursue the matter. The contrast was instantly clear. Father had always longed for another son. The hope that had just been kindled had been doused by Madame Lu with a bucket of cold water. Furious to the core, he slapped her hard across the face. "Have you caused enough trouble? You made my child fall. You've destroyed the Song family's bloodline, and you feel no remorse at all." Madame Lu's veil was knocked away, revealing the terrifying right half of her face. Lately she had refused to accept the scar and had been applying thick layers of powder day and night to hide it. The weather was scorching hot, the wound could not breathe, and all kinds of powder had seeped into it. On top of that, I had tampered with her medicine. Her face was rotting faster and faster. If anyone came close, they could smell the fall, decaying stench. Shen Meluan glared at her with pure fury. "Master has such a robust physique, yet over all these years only you have borne him 2 children. Could it be that all the other children died at your hands? As a woman yourself, Madame Lu, you are truly vicious." Father's face turned as black as ink. In a low voice he ordered, "Someone, lock Madame Lu in her courtyard. Without my permission, she is not allowed to step outside even half a step." After Lu Qing'ai lost the child, it was inconvenient for her to serve him, so father went to Shen Meluan's place instead. I asked about the child, and Lu Qing'ai smiled at me. The physician said the pregnancy was unstable to begin with. I didn't want to keep it anyway, so when she pushed me, I deliberately fell hard. She isn't completely brainless. These past few days, some unfamiliar servants have been secretly watching me. She probably wanted to ruin my reputation. It was better for me to strike first and eliminate the future threat. I don't need to feel guilty. This was also for my own sake. She continued, "You said that once everything succeeded, you would grant me my freedom. Does that promise still stand?" "Of course." She pulled the quilt tighter around herself. "In that case, I had even less reason to keep this child. While Madame Lu was recovering, Songwon repeatedly advised her not to trust those folk remedies from outside and not to apply random cosmetics and powders. She was already at a certain age, leaving a few scars on her face wouldn't matter. But Madame Lu refused to listen. Instead, she cursed her daughter for being unfilial and useless, saying she couldn't even make father look at her a few more times. Back then I should have married you off to the Junbei Marquis instead. If you had been his fiancée, would your father have dared to treat us mother and son like this? Every argument was like driving another small needle into Songwon's heart. Now that she was locked in the courtyard, Madame Lu begged her daughter to find a way to make father change his mind. But 2 days earlier, the emperor had issued an edict bestowing Wenwan as the crown prince's principal consort, while the legitimate granddaughter of the Minister of Revenue was made a side consort. During this period, Songwon had been full of hope, constantly sending many gifts to the Eastern Palace, yet she received no response whatsoever. Now that the imperial decree had been issued, her hopes were completely shattered. She and Madame Lu erupted into a fierce quarrel. At the same time, Song Feng also caused another incident. Previously, Madame Lu had visited him every day to care for him. Now that she was locked away, he gained freedom and disguised himself as a servant to sneak out of the residence. Gamblers were irredeemable. For several consecutive days he went to the gambling dens. After winning a small sum at first, he soon lost another 3,000 taels. The creditors dragged him back to the door demanding payment, threatening to chop off both his hands if he didn't pay. Madame Lu cried until her eyes were swollen like peaches. She begged Songwon, "Take out all your jewelry and private savings first to save your brother's life. If your father finds out about this, your brother is finished." Songwon exploded with rage. "I already told you I would only save him once. Besides, even all my jewelry and savings combined aren't enough for 3,000 taels. Then find a marriage match for you." Madame Lu blurted out, "Since you have no hope of entering the Eastern Palace anymore, why not become the second wife of the Pingyuan Marquis? He has always liked you very much. I can demand more betrothal gifts to make up for your brother's shortfall." She grabbed Songwon's hand. "I only have one son. You only have this one younger brother. You cannot stand by and watch him die." The Pingyuan Marquis was 2 years older than father and already on his third marriage. He had at least 20 concubines in his residence, and his children, old and young, couldn't even fit around 3 tables. Songwon finally saw the truth clearly. She laughed coldly even as tears fell. "Mother, am I not your daughter too?" After father returned from court that afternoon, Songwon proactively told him that Song Feng had gone out gambling again and incurred even more debt. The moment father heard, he clutched his chest, unable to breathe for a long while. "That wretched spawn. I must chop off that wretched spawn's hands." He grabbed a knife and stormed furiously into Madame Lu's courtyard. Song Feng knew he had caused a disaster and hid behind Madame Lu, begging desperately. In his rage, father swung the blade without hesitation and cleanly severed half of Song Feng's right arm. A blood-curdling scream rang out. Blood gushed like a fountain, extinguishing father's anger. Facing Madame Lu's accusations and blame, along with his son's continuous pleas, he was exhausted to the extreme. "Someone, take Madame Lu and the young master to the countryside estate. Station people to guard them strictly. Without my permission, they are not allowed to leave the courtyard even half a step. If they are discovered trying to escape again, sell every single servant who was responsible for watching them." The carriage had been prepared by me. With tears in my eyes, I saw the 2 of them off. "You will stay in the same courtyard where my mother and I once lived. Everything there is fully equipped." I looked at Song Feng with curved, smiling eyes. "When you were 13 years old, you forced yourself on a girl wearing her wedding clothes. Do you still remember? Kansai hanged herself afterward. She is buried on the hill behind the estate. Once you're there, she will probably come looking for you often at night." Song Feng's eyes widened in terror. "You vile whore. It really was you who plotted against me all along." "I'm not going to the estate. Whether I stay in the capital or not is not for you to decide. Once you reach the estate, whether you live like human beings or like beasts begging for scraps will no longer be up to you either." During this time I had been secretly tampering with their food, drink, and medicine. By the time they reached the estate, they wouldn't live much longer. 3,000 taels was no small sum. Father was so worried he was losing hair. Every day he went out trying to find ways to raise the money. one day he said. Recently the residence has been plagued with one incident after another. I fear our luck this year is bad. Lan, tomorrow is the 15th. Come with me to the Western Mountain to worship Buddha and pray for some protection. Very well, I will listen to father. The coachman and the page boy beside father were both unfamiliar faces. Not long after the carriage left the western city gate, it turned onto a small path. I asked why we weren't taking the main road. The coachman replied, "Today is the 15th, so many people are leaving the city. This servant knows a shortcut that is faster." The carriage entered a bamboo forest where everything was quiet and still. Father poured me a cup of tea, his gaze fixed on me. "Lan, the ending that Madame Lu and Feng have met today, was it all arranged by you single-handedly?" So he already knew. He wasn't completely stupid after all. I was merely going with the flow. Madame Lu is my stepmother. Feng is my younger brother. How could I possibly? I burst out laughing at his words. If Song Feng hadn't been a gambler, would I have forced him to sit at the gambling table? If he hadn't harbored wicked intentions toward my betrothal gifts, how could I have castrated him? If Madame Lu hadn't wanted to kill me, why would I have slashed her face? How many children has she killed in the inner residence over the years? How many sins has she committed? Who does father think should be blamed? Song Wei did not answer directly. He only said angrily, "You are an unmarried young lady from a noble house. How can you speak so casually about castrating someone? The one to blame is me. For favoring concubines and neglecting my legal wife, for indulging my children, for being selfish and heartless." Song Wei slammed his hand on the table. "Song Lan, I am still your father. The crimes you have committed are enough to send you to prison." I was not afraid at all. I smiled. "But you don't want the dirty secrets of the Song family to be exposed to the world, and you don't want to throw me in prison. So you intend to kill me here instead, don't you? How could you?" Before he could finish speaking, I pulled the hairpin from my hair with lightning speed and stabbed it straight into his heart. This hairpin had been given to me by Yuan Tan a few days ago to admire. Its design was special. The front was flat and extremely sharp. If the gilded head was covered, it looked exactly like a slender dagger that could be worn in the hair and used to kill. It was truly a perfect multi-purpose item. Song Wei clutched his chest as blood poured out nonstop, knocking the teacup off the table. With a crash, the carriage suddenly stopped. The curtain was lifted. The page boy and coachman were stunned at the sight. Song Wei pointed at me. Kill her. The rest of the money will be paid in full." The two men's eyes instantly turned cold. They drew the weapons hidden on their bodies and closed in on me. Half a cup of tea's time later, both men had stopped breathing. As for me, my hands, body, and face were covered in blood, like a demon crawling out of hell. Song Wei had not yet drawn his last breath. He stared at me in utter horror. I smiled at him. "Father, you really underestimated me. If I didn't have the skills to protect my life, how would I dare enter the tiger's den knowing full well there was a tiger inside?" I moved closer. He curled into a ball, crying and begging. "No, don't kill me. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I was blinded by Madame Lu all these years. That's why I treated you poorly. From now on I will change. I really will change. I will treat you with all my heart and soul, love you dearly. I am your father. Lan, spare your father's life." I laughed. "Song Wei, the one who is rotten to the core is you. Madame Lu was merely your accomplice. She may linger on for a while longer, but you must die. Back then when you favored your concubine and destroyed your wife, abandoning my mother to suffer, you should have thought that this day would come." I took a deep breath. "I have waited for this day for a very long time. Let me help you check your wound." I thrust my hand into Song Wei's wound and dug hard. He let out a heart-wrenching scream, sweat pouring down like rain. At that moment, the carriage curtain was lifted again. The person who arrived was Yuan Tan. A spark of hope lit up in Song Wei's eyes. With his last bit of strength he cried out, "Save me! Save me! She is a vicious woman. Marquis, save me." Yuan Tan raised an eyebrow. "What kind of person she is, I know far better than you. Why use such dirty hands? Was the dagger I gave her not easy enough to use?" "Easy to use." I smiled at him. "It's just that I wanted to feel his death with my own hands." Song Wei's pupils contracted. "You two are in this together, two lunatics. Song Wei, go to hell." I pulled my hand out. Blood immediately sprayed from his wound like a fountain. Not long after, he breathed his last. "Mother, I have avenged you. If you have reincarnated, in your next life don't trust men so easily. You must be happy." I stared blankly at my blood-covered hands. Yuan Tan asked worriedly, "Are you alright?" I smiled at him. "I'm fine. This isn't the first time I've killed someone." After saying that, my vision went dark and I fainted. I had a dream. Not long after I was sent to the countryside estate, my mother passed away. The maids assigned to watch me barely fed me, so I could only sneak out to find food myself. I ran through the mountains and forests and accidentally wandered into the courtyard of a recluse. The man was sickly and frail all year round, but his martial arts were extremely high. "I beg you to take me as your disciple," he said. "Only if you promise that before I die you will not return to the capital." I agreed. Half a year later, while I was out gathering herbs, I encountered a group of men dressed as government soldiers surrounding and trying to kill a young man. The youth fought desperately and was on the verge of death. Most of his attackers had already fallen. Only one burly man remained, holding a sharp blade. He stepped on the youth and said, "So what if your mother was the legal wife? My father loved my mother and me. You killed them, so I'll kill you. Then the position of heir in the Marquis's mansion will naturally belong to me." He raised his long sword and stabbed down toward the youth's heart. Without time to think, I took out the hunting bow in my hand and shot an arrow through the man's throat. That year I was 9 years old. The first time I killed someone. The person I killed was the second young master of the Zhunbei Marquis's mansion, Yuan Tan's younger brother, Yuan Ming. I dragged him back to the grass hut and begged my master to save his life. After he woke up, he asked me, "I killed my father and stepmother. This is a heinous, unforgivable sin against nature. Aren't you afraid of me?" I said, "Brother Yuan, you did what I wanted to do. I admire you. One day I will also kill my father and Madame Lu to avenge my mother." To others he was a demon, but in my heart he was a hero. Master did not want to keep him for long. Once his injuries improved slightly, he pointed him toward a path north to seek the Prince of Yu. Before leaving, he gave me the scented sachet his mother had embroidered with her own hands. "You saved my life. As long as I am alive, you can come find me with this and ask me to do anything for you. Even kill someone. Yes, kill anyone, even myself." Afterward he followed the Prince of Yu into battle and achieved many military accomplishments. Later, during the struggle for the throne, he killed 2 other princes in combat, nearly losing his own life, while desperately protecting the Prince of Yu until he ascended the throne. The Prince of Yu became the current emperor, and he became the top meritorious official. All his past crimes were wiped clean, and no one dared mention them again. Valued by the emperor and holding military power, he became the Zhunbei Marquis whose name alone struck fear into people's hearts. The dream was very long, as if it had spanned an entire lifetime. When I woke up, everything had returned to dust. The officials from the Court of Judicial Review said that the coachman and page boy were wanted murderers on the list of fugitives. They had disguised their identities and infiltrated the Song family, intending to make a big score. Fortunately, the Zhunbei Marquis arrived in time and saved my life. Unfortunately, my father had already died. I told the outside world that I wanted to return my father's fallen leaves to their roots and bury him in Jiangnan. But in reality I simply wrapped him in a straw mat and threw him into the mass graveyard outside the city. Song Wan came to question me. "You killed father, didn't you?" I asked her in return. How could father gather 3,000 tales in such a short time? She stammered, "Hey, he planned to marry me to Prince Wan." Prince Wan was His Majesty's own uncle. At 65 years old this year, he already had 1 foot in the coffin. No wonder he had dared to act against me. In his eyes, as long as he offered Song Wan to Prince Huan and gained his protection, and since my relationship with Yuan Tan was not deep, he probably wouldn't investigate too much. Unfortunately for him, I understood his nature too well and had always kept watch. "You like being a concubine to an old man?" "Of course not. Then isn't the current outcome perfect?" I looked at her with a half-smile. "You no longer have anyone scheming behind your back, and your hands remain clean. Earlier when you secretly someone to inform me, weren't you calculating the same thing?" Song Wan's face flushed red. But he was still my father. Madame Li loved her son more than her daughter. Song Wei loved his official position and benefits more than his wife and children. A father must be benevolent before a child can be filial. If the father is not kind, then we might as well show our filial piety by sending him to his grave. This is only natural. There is no need to feel burdened. She remained silent for a long time before asking softly, "Then will you kill me?" "No. Her voice was as quiet as a mosquito. I'm sorry, eldest sister. I ignored her. I would not kill her, nor did I want a sister like her. I returned the body contracts of Lu Qinghai and Shen Meluan and gave them 100 taels of silver each. They refused. Over the years we have saved some money ourselves to buy our freedom. It is enough. You gave us freedom and helped us obtain clean new identities. That is something 10,000 taels of gold cannot buy. On the day they left the Song family, I saw them off outside the city and discovered a handsome young man already waiting there. The moment he saw the two women, he smiled brightly and walked over, calling to Lu Qinghai. Cousin, I finally understand why you refused to keep father's child. Shen Meluan hooked her arm through Lu Qinghai's and smiled mischievously. Don't let your imagination run wild. They are cousins, not that kind of relationship. Sister Qinghai belongs to me. We are the real couple. Hemph. I looked at Lu Qinghai in confusion. Her ears turned slightly red as she nodded. She hadn't lied. Her cousin already had a wife and children. The two got into the carriage. Shen Meluan lifted the curtain and waved at me. Farewell, Miss Song. It's a pity that Sister Qinghai and I cannot hold a proper wedding banquet or announce our union openly to the world. But I think you will bless us, won't you? Of course. I wish you both eternal happiness and that you never part. It will definitely be so. Yuan Tan rode out from behind a tree and stopped beside me. His black martial robe clung tightly to his body, outlining every powerful muscle. I pulled the reins. My horse reared up on its front hooves. I leaned back deliberately. He immediately reached out to catch me. I took the opportunity to wrap my arms around his neck, clung to him, and used the momentum to leap onto his horse, sitting face to face with him. Our breaths were so close we could hear each other clearly. His body instantly tensed. You did that on purpose, he said. I circled my arms around his neck and looked straight into his eyes. You are too handsome. It's hard for anyone to resist. His Adam's apple bob. In half a month we will be married. I lifted my head and kissed his lips. I can't wait half a month. I want you now. He held me tightly, his voice strained. There's an inn ahead. Let's go there. Next time, we can do it in the fields. From the first time I saw him again after returning to the capital, I had already been captivated by him. Now that my great revenge was complete, it was time for him to repay me. A life, saving grace repaid with the body. I came to collect late after many years, so naturally I must collect some interest as well. At first he was still awkward and excited, but afterward he became more and more skilled, more and more immersed. I lost count of how many times we gave ourselves to each other. A day and night passed. The horizon gradually brightened with the white light of dawn. Yuan Tan was utterly exhausted and still sound asleep. I got up and put my clothes back on piece by piece. I took one deep look at him, then turned to leave. But he suddenly reached out and pulled me back, his voice low and hoarse. I knew you were in such a hurry because you planned to leave. Stay. Wouldn't it be good if we got married? Or did I not perform well enough? No. You were very good. But I don't want to marry. And I don't want to be bound to anyone for life. Yuan Tan, I once saved you and you helped me. We repaid each other with our bodies. The debt between us is clear. The world is vast. I want to see it. He slowly released his hand. Then go. If you miss me, come back and find me. I will always wait for you. Ha! I believed his feelings in this moment, but I found it hard to believe he would remain sincere for a lifetime. Sang Ye was waiting at the city gate. She turned to look back at the prosperous capital. Young miss, are we really leaving just like this? What about everything else? No need to worry. Yuan Tan will handle it well. The brilliant morning sunlight poured down on us. I spurred my horse forward. Let's go. Follow me across these rivers and mountains. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.